Israel or Ukraine or Taiwan, and also to secure the border. I called the president last week to make sure he understood that there wouldn't be a bill without a credible effort to get on top of our disastrous southern border situation. I hope that made the point, because I think on our side I've been the most enthusiastic supporter of the underlying bill, but this has to be a part of it. It's extremely important that it be a part of it. I also, on Thanksgiving Day, got a call from the Prime Minister of Israel. I think it's really important that we not pressure the Israelis into a situation where they can't ultimately achieve their goal. But we are obviously happy about the hostages that have been released. There's still a lot there and more left to be done to get them out.
Well, by any objective standard, the Biden border strategy has been a complete and utter failure. Right on the heels of record-breaking months in the last 3 months, it's reported now that October is the worst October literally on record. 240,000 people apprehended trying to come into the country illegally, including 13 on the terrorist watch list. And this crisis is affecting not only border communities, but communities all over the country, including some of our largest communities. The mayor of New York City has announced massive budget cuts so that he can deal with the migrant crisis in New York City, so much so that they're talking about freezing hiring of police. They're talking about closing libraries. They're talking about cutting education funding. And as he has indicated, the mayor of New York, that is, that this is just the beginning unless they get major infusions of support from Washington, D.C. So the question isn't whether or not this is affecting communities, not only on the border, but everywhere around the country. The question is, what are the Democrats going to be willing to do about it? And so far, the answer is nothing. Republicans have solutions, meaningful solutions that will slow the flow of people coming across our southern border illegally and provide relief for communities across the country who are feeling the strain of this on a daily basis. And the important point I will make in closing is that the reason this needs to be dealt with, and the reason the Democrats need to work with Republicans to solve this, is because this is a national security crisis. It is a humanitarian crisis. We know that. 14 people drowned, trying to come across the border just this last weekend. But this is a national security crisis. We are dealing with a national security supplemental bill in the Senate and in the House here, probably in the next couple of weeks. And there is no way that a national security bill will make its way out of the Senate and the House if it doesn't address the national security crisis at our border. We will insist on it.
I spent Thanksgiving in South Korea with Wyoming soldiers who were serving at Camp Humphreys. You go to talk about home, the hunting season in Wyoming, and Wyoming college football. You also go to thank them for what they're doing. They are on the front lines against an aggressive communist China and a belligerent North Korea. The world is increasingly dangerous because the world sees President Biden as increasingly a pushover. So you have North Korea, Iran, Russia, communist China, all working together, feeling emboldened. And they are locked in this effort to undermine America and our strength. And then our friends don't trust us after the disastrous way that President Biden left Afghanistan. The president recently met with President Xi of China. Xi must be licking his lips after that meeting. I mean, Joe Biden went in naively to talk about climate change as President Xi is doing dress rehearsals for an invasion of Taiwan. Joe Biden's worried about global climate change, and I'm worried about a global nuclear winter with him in the White House. So we're now dealing with a national security bill. It does nothing adequately to address the southern border. The border's being overrun. Deadly drugs, potential terrorists. All of these things, the Democrats have to know that they need to work with Republicans on finding serious, significant changes at how the southern border is being managed, or there will be no national security bill. Call it what you will. National security sabotage, national security suicide. That's what the Democrats are doing. And the soldiers, the men and women in uniform that I met with in South Korea for Thanksgiving, they deserve better. They deserve a president and a Congress committed to strength, peace through strength, and a willingness to get it done.
At the beginning of this month, I was honored to attend a Stand with Israel rally on our National Mall. And I gathered there with nearly 300,000 people that came together to talk about the terrorist attacks of October 7th in Israel, what it meant to them, and how we should stand with the state of Israel. And folks, 300,000 people, and it was peaceful. It was peaceful. No acts of violence. But what have we seen over the course of the last month coming from those that are protesting the actions that Israel is taking to defend itself? We have seen a Jewish student in Philadelphia with a burning dormitory door. We have seen a Cornell professor that stated he was exhilarated by the rape and murder of innocent Israelis. We have seen a Stanford professor take all of his Jewish students and force them into a corner to demonstrate how the Palestinians felt and why it was okay that Hamas went after innocent Israelis. Okay, that's what we see coming from these pro-Hamas supporters across the United States. Now, these universities need to get this straight. There is a line between what is free speech, which incites debate, and what is hate speech, which incites violence. So let's be clear, folks. Hamas is a terrorist organization. Hamas went into Israel, ripped babies out of their mothers' wombs, burnt them in ovens. Hamas raped women and killed frail and elderly civilians. That's who Hamas is. Anyone who is standing up and celebrating them is on the wrong side of history. So folks, my message to these universities, these colleges, and K through 12 schools that assist and enable anti-Semitic hate speech: you should not have federal funding, period. That's not who we are as America. We stand with Israel.
Good afternoon. When we left before Thanksgiving, the air went out of the balloon in terms of the pressure of making sure that we got our funding bills together. So now we've pushed it to January. But you know what that gives us? That gives us time to actually work the bills that have already been passed out of the Senate Appropriations Committee onto the floor. And what are we doing this week? Nominations. We are not moving forward into regular order where we can consider the bills. For instance, my bill out of appropriations, the Labor H bill, which is the second largest bill under the purview of the Appropriations Committee, is languishing, waiting to come up to the floor so we can have healthy debate, we can set a Senate marker, and we can work together. We don't have top-line numbers. The leader Schumer, hasn't even hardly mentioned this in the missives that I've seen that he's put out and the remarks that he has made, and he's squandering good time, resources, and I think the ability for us to really get our work done and set us on a path of frugal responsibility to where we can then become conference with the House. So my call to Senator Schumer today is put these bills on the floor. Minibuses, put them together. We already did one. We can do more. We've got time to do it. We've got nothing but nominations coming before us. That's signaling to the American people that this is not important to him and to the Senate. So our leadership on appropriations, certainly with Senator Collins leading the way for us on the Republican side and Senator Murray, have been, I think, very much joined at the hip here to say regular order on appropriations, discuss the bills. We've got a little bit more time. There's no reason to push it to January. We should be considering this today.
Well, yesterday I was at my home airport, getting ready to get on a plane to head back to Washington, D.C. By the way, Montana is beautiful. And as I was spending a little time before I got on the plane, I was chatting with a member of Montana law enforcement who works there at the airport. He told me they had a recent situation where they had a violent person with a criminal background that needed to get on a plane to fly. And they had requested an air marshal that could shadow this potentially violent passenger before they got on the plane. Well, guess what? He told me, and he's had a multi-decade career in law enforcement in Montana, Montana Highway Patrol, now working at the airport. He said there were no air marshals available because they've been deployed to the southern border to process illegals coming into the country. Today, I'm sending a letter to Secretary Mayorkas demanding answers. It's not the only time that the Biden administration, this unprecedented border crisis, has pulled resources from where they're needed. Look at what just happened last week at the Tucson sector of the Border Patrol. They said they can't post information on social media now because, and I quote, all available personnel is needed to address the unprecedented flow of migrants. We have folks coming across the border who are on the FBI's terror watch list and others who are coming from countries that the State Department has listed as state sponsors of terror. But diverting personnel, air marshals, from the jobs they were trained to do and to protect us is not fixing the problem, it's making it worse. We need policy changes as part of this supplemental that we're debating right now on the United States Senate floor. Walls work. We need to complete President Trump's wall. We need to tighten asylum standards and rein in DHS's parole power.
Leader McConnell. Leader McConnell.
Alec?
Leader McConnell. You spoke on the Senate floor earlier this month about the weak response on college campuses to anti-Semitism. Would you support legislation to hold up federal funding to colleges unless this issue is addressed?
Well, look, I'm a big supporter of the First Amendment. That entitles all of you to say whatever you want to about all of us, and contrary. But look, it seems to me what we ought to be expecting from college leadership, presidents of colleges and universities, is the truth. And the truth is, there is no moral equivalence between what Hamas did and what Israel's doing to defend itself. And yet, it seems to me that's exactly where we've ended up. The one college president who seems to me got it right is our former colleague, Ben Sass, who's currently president of the University of Florida. It seems to me telling the truth, the facts, is the least we can expect from college leadership.
Leader McConnell, on Israel funding, Senate Democrats are currently debating this idea of whether to place conditions on the funding. One of the arguments in favor is that Congress does this for nearly every other country that it gives foreign military assistance to. What is your response to that?
Yeah, I think it's ridiculous. Our relationship with Israel is the closest national security relationship we have with any country in the world. And to condition, in effect, our assistance to Israel on their meeting our standards, it seems to me, is totally unnecessary. This is a democracy, a great ally of ours, and I do not think we need to condition the support that hopefully we'll give to Israel very soon.
Leader McConnell, should it be that much harder to seek asylum in the country? people